We acknowledge and pay respect to the Tasmanian Aboriginal people as the traditional and original owners and continuing custodians of this land upon which we gather today, and acknowledge elders past and present. I now invite members to join me in reciting the Lord's Prayer, or to stand in silence and pray or reflect on their responsibilities to the people of Tasmania. Almighty God, we humbly ask you to grant your blessing upon this Parliament, lead our deliberations and make them succeed for your glory and the true welfare of the people of Tasmania. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Before I call on question time, I'll acknowledge in the gallery we have Year 6 students from the Hutchins School. So, best behaviour from everyone, please. Questions, Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. My question is to the Premier. Premier, since you took Tasmania into minority government, 7,000 full-time jobs have been lost. You've overseen the biggest infrastructure stuff-up in Tasmanian history, and you admitted that you let Tasmanians down. Your attempt to gain support in the Legislative Council for your stadium proposal has been so shambolic that it left members wondering whether you actually wanted to spike it. The business community says it will be hard to ever trust your government again, but all of this pales into insignificance when compared to your handling of the Tasmanian state budget. From inheriting no net debt in 2014, you have delivered the biggest budget deficits in history and led Tasmania towards $10 billion worth of net debt. So, Premier, my question is, can you name the date when the debt will stop growing?
I'll call the Premier.
Well, I thank the honourable member for his question, and can I welcome the students to the gallery today, and can I also welcome both Bruce and Denise Morecambe to the gallery today as well. And thank the honourable member for your question. Our Tasmanian economy, our jobs growth, our investment in essential services will always be better under a Liberal government than a Labor government. How do I know that? How do I know that? Because when you look at the record over the course of the last 10 years, where we have rebuilt schools across Tasmania that were in disrepair. In fact, just yesterday, and I've got to acknowledge Mr. Kerry Vincent in the chamber today, who, as mayor of the local community, invited me to the school to see the state of disrepair of Sorell High School. Sorell School. And can I say what a proud moment it was yesterday, where we celebrated the opening of an almost $28 million investment that rebuilt that school. And I paid tribute to Mr Vincent in the chamber today, but also all the school community who fought really hard and advocated really hard to rebuild that school. Like communities at Lagana for a new school, the community in Brighton, a new school, Parklands High School, Smithton High School, Latrobe High School, Riverside High School, Kings Meadows High School, Tasman District School, right across Tasmania. We are rebuilding education to ensure contemporary 21st century modern infrastructure to support a child's development and learning. We have rebuilt hospitals. We rebuilt a hospital, the Royal Hobart Hospital.
Premier, I will hear. Point of order?
Point of order, 45. The question was, can the Premier name the date when the net debt will stop growing?
That's right. Thank you. You had a lengthy lead-in, which does provide the Premier with some scope. However, with 44 seconds to go, I'll draw the Premier to the question.
So, our budget, which will be delivered by our Treasurer Barnett on Thursday, is building a better Tasmania now and into the future. As we have been doing, looking in the past 10 years, how we have rebuilt an economy that was devastated as a result of the Labor Green government, rebuilt schools, hospitals and roads and services, and we have created around 50,000 jobs and the lowest unemployment on record at 3.8%. 3.8%. And so what our budget will deliver is cost of living relief.
The Premier's time for answering the question has expired. I'll hear a supplementary question.
Re-ask the question, Honourable Speaker. Can the Premier name the date when the net debt will stop growing?
I will draw the Premier to the original question. I'm sure he doesn't need help from members on his side.
As I say,
Or members on my left.
the Honourable Member Treasurer Barnett will deliver the budget on Thursday. It delivers cost of living relief and record funding for frontline services. $10 million a day being invested to support Tasmanians in need and their care. While growing our economy and providing a sensible pathway to surplus, Honourable Speaker. That is what good budget management is all about. That is what delivering on services, upgrading infrastructure and, of course, continuing to grow our economy. And might I say, when I say again, the Tasmanian economy will always be better served under a Liberal government. The NAB Business Survey, April this year, shows Tasmania is leading the nation in business confidence. Tasmania, skyrocketed to the top of business confidence.
Premier's time for answering the supplementary question has expired. Second question, the Leader of the Opposition.
My question is to the Premier. Premier, Tasmania will soon be paying more than $500 million every year just to service your record debt. Your budget is so bad you'll have to borrow even more money to pay for it, pushing interest even higher and diverting even more money from health and education and other essential services. Over the weekend, we found out you've abolished nursing jobs, librarians and park rangers, essential roles by any definition. And now further documents forced out of the Treasurer confirm you're also cutting more than $11 million from schools, including $2.5 million from Year 11 and 12 education. This comes at a time when education results are the worst of any state and going backwards. Why should Tasmanian young people suffer because you can't manage money?
I call the Premier.
Well, of course, a history lesson for the Honourable Leader of the Opposition. What the budget contains is the cost of $400 million per annum due to you raiding the superannuation provision account.
The biggest
That's right.
is your debt.
That's right.
That's the
Shadow
and
Treasurer.
it's costing Tasmanians $400 million
Leader
per
of the
annum, of
Opposition.
which we have to manage due to your ineptitude when it comes to financial management, of course.
Have a look in the mirror, mate.
And can I say this very clearly?
How do you say that?
We are growing.
Members on my left.
The debt.
Growing our frontline services. We have secured record funding with the federal government, growth funding with the federal government in a partnership for our schools. All right? Record funding, growth funding over the course of the next 10 years. Schools secure. Plus, of course, as I demonstrated in my first answer to your question, rebuilding the schools that you left decimated as a result of 16 years of Labor government and the 4 years of a Labor Green government. Can I say this? $10 million a day into our health system. Record funding at $14.5 billion into our health system. We've got police on the beat, keeping Tasmanians safe. We're investing, of course, in roads, in bridges, and I look forward to the celebration this weekend of the opening of the Bridgewater Bridge. The Prime Minister will be here. I know you don't want celebrations. I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Will you be there? Will you be there?
The Premier will direct his answers through the chair.
I'm looking forward to it. You're smiling. You're smiling. But, you know, we've seen backflips. of course, on Stadium. We've seen backflips on Marinus, backflips on privatisation, and I'm wondering if you'll be backflipping and attending the celebration, of course, of a fantastic joint federal-state initiative, the largest infrastructure project completed in Tasmania, of which, of course, this government is extremely proud of. What we're about is sensible fiscal management, where we are investing.
No one believes you anymore.
Members on my left.
Behind you believe.
Leader of the
Where
Opposition.
we are investing in the essential services, a sensible pathway to surplus,
Leader of the
sensible
Opposition.
pathway to surplus, but we're not going to slash and burn like you did in 2011, where you sacked nurses and you sacked police and you sacked just about anyone you could sack, frankly, and decimated frontline services. We won't do that because that has a negative
Time
effect
for
on the
answering
economy.
the question has expired. I'll remind members to direct their question and answers through the chair, not having a conversation across the galleyways, please. And with that, I call the Honourable Leader of the Greens.
Thank you. Honourable Speaker, my question is to the Premier. Premier, you've just now released your stadium legislation and supporting documentation. We were bracing ourselves for a bad bill, but wow, you've really outdone yourself. This bill and permit gives Minister Eric Abetz unprecedented power to unilaterally amend the stadium permit and any related permit issued under the Act, to issue subsequent project permits, to issue permits for the access network, to acquire land for the access network, and to reconcile any inconsistencies between the permit conditions. And you've given him free rein to instruct the Planning Commission to change the planning scheme to facilitate any permit conditions. This legislation is draconian, and bringing it to Parliament is an utter farce. It doesn't matter if the Parliament approves the stadium bill as written, because you've given Minister Abetz full power to change it as he sees fit. Will you admit that the inclusion of these unprecedented ministerial powers makes this bill not worth the paper it's written on?
The time for asking the question has expired. I'll give the Premier the call.
Thank you.
Members on my right.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, for allowing me to answer the question. I appreciate that very much. Look, I mean, surprise, surprise. I mean, really, the Greens don't support the enabling legislation. I mean, I am shocked, really. I'm really shocked that you're not supporting it, and you will make up anything you can to make sure that this is presented as, Armageddon. But it's not. Can I commend all those involved in the Macquarie Point Multipurpose Stadium enabling legislation report? A tremendous report, a lot of detail, which covers off on the issues that were of concerns as presented by the panel of the TPC comprehensively, but also points to the fantastic opportunity that this is for Tasmania. That this will bring Tasmania, its economy, its aspiration for young people, not only our own Tasmanian Devils team, of which we've fought for decades for, and secured. This is vital for that continuation of the team. No stadium and no team. No stadium and no team.
Deputy Leader
So
of the
it's
Greens.
decision time.
Deputy Leader of the
Decision time.
Greens.
And I'm not sure what the honourable member was referring to in her question when she said, how dare we bring legislation to Parliament? We bring every piece of legislation to Parliament and it will be thoroughly scrutinised, of course, as this project has been for the last 3 years. I haven't counted how many times I've answered a question in question time on this in the last 3 years, or indeed in budget estimates for the last 3 years, but there'd be hundreds of questions, including the Public Accounts Committee, that have done a very thorough job, I'd have to say, in scrutinising this project, keeping us, our departments, accountable, and of course I foresee that they will play a valuable role in moving forward as we deliver this project. It's no surprise to me that the Greens don't support this legislation. But you've never supported anything in the last 40 years, as I can recall, that is an opportunity to grow Tasmania, grow our economy, and so we can fund those essential services that Tasmanians care about. This is an intergenerational project. There's enabling legislation that is delivered right across the country for these types of stadia infrastructure. And we're no different when it comes to Tasmania. There's been an enormous amount of work informed by submissions to the project of state significance process.
Premier's time for answering the question has expired. You're all very fast, but I'm hearing a supplementary from the Leader of the
Thank you,
Greens.
Honourable Speaker. The Premier didn't answer the question. What's the purpose of stadiums, of Parliament's stadium approval process when the bill that you've got gives all power to Minister Eric Abetz to completely rewrite anything that the Parliament approves? Do you really think Tasmanians trust Minister Eric Abetz to make any decisions he wants about
Time
the
for
stadium
answering
without any
for the
oversight?
supplementaries. Premier, I will draw you to the original question. The second question around trust in individual ministers was outside of the allowance for a supplementary, but the original question needs to be addressed.
Yeah, and look, what I'm really concerned about is this pattern of behaviour. Now, for the first 12 or 14 months of this Parliament, you were relatively sensible, even for Greens. But you're really desperate now. And the attacks that you've had on public servants, who frankly don't deserve to be attacked, and I once again commend them.
Members of the Greens, you've asked a supplementary question. The Premier is now addressing it.
You know, and the personal attacks on individuals in the chamber is also not warranted. Now, argue the case, but don't personalise it. You're mischaracterising the intent of the bill. This is enabling legislation. It's decision time. So, you know, do the work, get across it. And no doubt you'll scrutinise it when it comes to Parliament. And everyone will have their say.
Premier's time for answering the question has expired. I will take the member for Bass, Mrs Pentland.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, my question is to the Premier. Premier, the stadium was originally costed at $715 million, with your government promising to cap its contribution at $375 million, not a red cent more. Now, before the sod has even been turned, we learnt the price tag has blown out to $945 million and still doesn't include the cost of critical infrastructure like road access and sewage works. Why should Tasmanians believe you can build a new stadium at Macquarie Point for less than $1 billion? The new berth for the Spirits at Devonport was originally going to cost $90 million. Now the estimate is a massive $493 million. How can Tasmanians have faith that your latest stadium estimate is even in the ballpark?
Call the Premier to the question.
I think, Honourable Member, for your question, of course, there's contingency in both the projects that you mentioned, and we're investing $375 million.
On my left, it wasn't your question.
Of capital, and of course, $240 million from the federal government, investment from the AFL as well, and then we're going to borrow. And then realise commercial opportunities to pay down that debt. This is infrastructure for the next 50 years and more. All right? And this is why we can afford to invest in critical infrastructure that grows our economy, provides that aspiration for young people, supports job in construction and supports all the industry sectors as a result of that enabling infrastructure. The entertainment sector, the sporting sector, for example, and all the jobs that flow on through that. This is important infrastructure, an infrastructure that frankly needs to be built. This is decision time. The project of state significance process wasn't my chosen pathway. The chosen pathway was the major projects legislation, the major project legislation.
What happened?
Now, Parliament...
What happened?
Well, you know what happened.
It's not a conversation. Thank you.
I'll fight every single step of the way to keep this project alive. And, you know, when the Parliament...
Members on my left.
The Parliament voted for the project of state significance process. My original intent, of course, as announced, was the major project legislation. Now we have enabling legislation to get the job done. It is decision time. Everyone will get one vote and an opportunity to really decide, are we going to take Tasmania forward? That's right. Or are we going to succumb to negativity and forever be seen as a backwater and not a place to invest? And I'll tell you something about this stadium and this team. I'll tell you something about it. There will be young people born today in disadvantage whose life will change as a result of this project. As a result of this project. Their life trajectory is going to change, because I can see a young person, boy or girl, playing for their team, the Tasmanian Devils team, in future years. And anyone that wants to take that away,
has
shame on you.
expired. Thank you. I will give the call to the member for Franklin, Mr O'Byrne.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Health. Minister, the collapse of Healthscope should be no surprise to anyone. The writing has been on the wall for this provider now for months. The closure of St Helens and also the removal of maternity services were massive signs that this is where we were going to end up. The news has created great uncertainty within the Tasmanian community, a community that relies heavily on Healthscope for not only health services but also their employment. At a time when there is global competition for health workers, the uncertainty about their ongoing employment and career options, many Healthscopes of 600 Tasmanian staff will be considering their options. They may indeed be looking for job security interstate. Minister, waiting for the federal government and others to make decisions is not going to cut it. Given the predictable circumstances we face, what are your plans for the Hobart Private Hospital and for the hundreds of health professionals that work there?
Call the Minister for Health.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I thank the Honourable Member for Franklin for his question and for his concern in regards to Healthscope. I do share his concerns in regards to this matter, and that is why yesterday we met with the unions yesterday afternoon so that we could listen to their concerns. But I want to just update the House on what is happening in regards to Healthscope. We were formally advised yesterday that Healthscope has entered receivership and that receivers and administrators have been appointed. I am further advised that it is the intent of the receivers and administrators to continue with the operation of the Hobart Private Hospital, including the orderly and planned transition of maternity services to Calvary Healthcare. And we will continue to work closely with the administrators over the coming months because it is their intention to keep the hospital open. I met with unions last night, and myself and other states and territories will be meeting with Minister Butler today because this is a national issue and it is one that the federal government largely has responsibility for. So we do recognise the uncertainty that this situation is bringing to staff and patients, and I want to assure all members of this House that our number one priority is ensuring that Tasmanians do have access to the health supports and services they need, and including the private health care they pay for, but as well that staff do receive their entitlements. And the federal government does have responsibility in regards to this, and they have outlined already that they'll be willing to step up in this regards. But it is important that Tasmania does have private hospitals working in Tasmania, and that is our concern. So I can advise the House that we have been actively working with and exploring a number of options to ensure that Tasmanians can continue to have access to private health care, including discussions with other private providers, and to ensure that Tasmanians do have access to private health care, because if I'm paying for my private health insurance and I want choice, we need to ensure that private hospitals are available in Tasmania and can provide the services that people are paying for, because they do provide a lot of the elective surgery in this state. But the federal government does control the levers in regards to private hospital viability, especially in private health insurance premiums, and this is an issue that has been raised by private hospitals across the nation, and which is why the federal government has set up a private health CEO forum to bring together leaders from private hospitals, private health insurers, medical groups and independent experts to develop both long and short-term options to ensure private sector viability. But also for us, we want to ensure that our health workers do continue to stay in this state, and so that is why we met with the unions yesterday, and we've given the assurance that we'll be fighting to ensure that private services are continuing.
Expired. I will actually give the call to the Deputy Leader of the Opposition on rotation, noting though the member for Clark was fast.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. My question is to the Premier. Premier, the difference between South Australian Premier Peter Malinauskas' handling of the crisis at the Whyalla Steelworks and your handling of the situation at Liberty Bell Bay couldn't be starker. Premier Malinauskas was deeply involved in the crisis months before it came to a head, helped the public understand the scale of the issue and the threat to jobs, and worked with the federal government to take immediate and decisive action when required. In contrast, you have no discernible plan despite the fact nearly 200 workers will be stood down on forced leave. Are you considering providing financial support to Liberty Bell Bay? Or if not, what are you planning to do, Premier? Or have you given up on trying to do anything at all?
I call the Premier. Thank you, Minister Ellis. We don't need your help right now. Premier has the call.
Firstly, you cannot compare the two issues. I'll say that right now. And as
Deputy Leader, we're 3 seconds in.
I have great admiration for Peter Malinauskas, and Mally and I get on very well. Thank you very much. And have worked together when it comes to the NDIS and advocacy to the federal government, and will continue to work together, and I've got great admiration for him. Can I say this? I'll be meeting with Mr Gupta today, face-to-face. Can I also say this? I was on the phone to Mr Gupta a number of weeks ago when the concerning situation broke at Whyalla to get an understanding of the position from the company at that point in time. I wrote to the Prime Minister seeking an overarching task force, if you like, when it comes to smelters, not just in Bell Bay, so important for us, but of course we've got our challenges with New Star as well, right across the country. I mean, this is a national concerning issue, which is why I wrote to the Prime Minister more broadly around smelters probably 6 or 7 weeks ago, if my memory serves me correctly. I wrote probably 7 or 8 days ago, 10 days ago potentially, on Bell Bay more directly, seeking federal government assistance when it comes to working with the Tasmanian government. Tim Ayres has said we will work with the Tasmanian government. I have met with the unions, the Australian Workers Union, last week, a productive meeting. I was there on site, as many others were, last Wednesday for a barbecue where I met the workers on site. I listened to their fears of insecurity and deeply touched by particularly the people who haven't worked for a long time at the company and their limited amount of leave. I spoke to the management and very pleased to see the camaraderie between local management and the workers as well. And so what we do want from the company is transparency, to your question, so we can get a very clear understanding of what support, if any, is required. And of course we're willing to engage with the company and others to see where resources of whatever they might look like can be applied to secure the jobs of the 254 full-time equivalents and the 30 FTE contractors, as I understand it.
Premier's time for answering the question has expired. I will take the Deputy Leader of the Greens because he was fast at that time, but I once again note.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Speaker, my question is to the Premier. Premier, your new policy seems to be never let the truth get in the way of a good story. On May 7, you said that if the stadium legislation is defeated, quote, the project of state significance, or POS process, will not go ahead. Nice try, but sorry. The Tasmanian Planning Commission has called out your rubbish again. The head of DPAC wrote to the TPC last week saying the Crown will, and I quote, cease to actively engage with the POS process. The Planning Commission's response was swift. It pointed out that it has a statutory obligation to continue the POS assessment regardless of the government's participation, unless Parliament revokes its authority. It said POS will continue with or without you. In other words, if your stadium bill fails, the POS will continue. Premier, won't you admit that your ultimatum to the Upper House was just a clumsy bluff? And will you set the record straight with Legislative Council members?
Call the Premier.
I thank Honourable Speaker. I thank the Honourable Member for your question. The agreement's very clear. There are clear-cut timeframes and timelines to deliver on this project and indeed the team. And for all the criticism of the deal from some quarters, it's important that the deal was struck to ensure that we delivered on time, because this is about securing the future of the football team, not just for the next couple of years, but it needs to be sustainable for many, many decades. And that's why we've secured the deal. That's why we have to stick with the deal and deliver the associated infrastructure, notwithstanding the enormous additional benefits outside of the AFL team that this will bring. Enormous. Stadia infrastructure, or stadia economy across the nation 2.5 years ago was $8 billion. And we need to have a slice of that. No doubt it's more. No doubt it'll be more in $2 billion together. No doubt it'll be more in 2032 when the enabling legislation goes through the Queensland Parliament to get that infrastructure up and running, and we have the Olympics. No doubt it'll be more. And so it's decision time. Now, you might not like to have to make a decision. I know what your decision will be because you've always fought against it the whole time. The whole time. Well, no one has been more accountable than me when it comes to this project.
Point of order.
Point of order from the Leader.
The question was explicitly around the POS process and his threat to the Upper House that the POS will stop. That's been
Thank you, members on my right. I can't hear the point of order.
It's been shown that it can't happen. You can't unilaterally pull out of that process. And the question was, won't he admit that it's a clumsy bluff? And will he set the record straight with legislative councillors? It's about the POS itself, not the stadium.
I'll draw the Premier to the question.
Well, thank you. I reject your characterisation of that. I was just simply pointing out the fact that it's decision time and we have to move on. We have to move on. We all have to be accountable in this place for the decision. And very clear timelines as part of the agreement. There's nothing more democratic than, of course, legislation being delivered to Parliament and for us as
Leader of the
parliamentarians to vote on and get across, like we do with every legislation, like we did with the Meander Dam. All right, remember that? You fought against that as well. I know, I remember. Like the Parliament Square.
Premier's time for answering the question has expired. I will hear the
The Premier
supplementary.
didn't go anywhere near the question.
Sorry, no, that was a point of... Sorry, I'll stop you for a moment. That was a point of order. I'll hear the supplementary.
Copycatting guns by refusing to participate in the POS is a different thing to the POS ceasing, which is what the Premier threatened the upper house with. The TPC has said that is clearly not true. The POS will continue unless Parliament says otherwise. Why would he want to kill off POS? And if his bid fails, how would he actually do that? He hasn't gone anywhere near the POS threat.
The time for asking the supplementary has expired. I genuinely think the Premier has answered it. I know it's not an answer that you like, and you will have another opportunity to ask another question. But whilst the answer isn't the one you wanted, it is close enough in terms of being relevant to be a relevant answer. I will call the member for Clark, Mrs Johnson, who has jumped repeatedly and not been given the call.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. My question is to the Premier. Premier, by including a roof, you have shut cricket out of the stadium. Cricket was an essential part of an already heroically optimistic business case. Cricket Australia and Cricket Tasmania are clear. Your roof represents an unacceptable playing, operational and broadcast environment for all forms of cricket. They reiterated this position to me only this morning. Yes roof means no cricket, that is Test and One-Day Internationals and T20 fixtures. But you've known this for years and failed to find a solution. Premier, will you issue a revised business case for the stadium without cricket for public consultation and before the enabling legislation goes to a vote? And will you be honest with the Tasmanian community and admit the case that it is now yes roof, no cricket?
Call the Premier.
I think Honourable Member for your question. Are you saying if it's no roof, it's yes from you? Is that what you're saying?
Be honest with Tasmania.
Okay, all right.
Premier,
So it's
the Premier
roof
will
you're
address
worried
the
about.
question and not incite conversations.
You know, the Honourable Member for Clark, for Clark, let's face it, an electorate that will benefit hugely from this investment. If that's what you could argue, no roof if you like, if that's what it takes for you to support it, which is clearly what you said in your question. Of course, the stadium is being designed so that all forms of cricket can be played there. I've engaged with Cricket Tasmania. I've met with Cricket Australia as well. Our work is continuing with both Cricket Tasmania and Cricket Australia to identify the suitable mitigations when it comes to shading, which is one of the areas of concern. And of course, there are several design options that are being considered, including to test different roof materials on site, to pilot shadow reduction options, for example. Macquarie Point Development Corporation will continue with cricket, to work with cricket, to test, to visit, to trial options, indeed to ensure that the stadium is suitable for all forms of cricket. I am confident that we can work through those issues with Cricket Tasmania and Cricket Australia and truly make this a remarkable, world-leading entertainment and multi-sport venue.
I'll hear the supplementary from the member for Clark.
From the Premier's answer, he suggested that he's been working with Cricket Australia. This morning I spoke with them and they are unaware of any new solution options on the table and they haven't been engaged with them. You've had 2 years, Premier, to come up with a solution. Do you expect Tasmanians to believe that in 2 weeks you will find a solution that you can't find in 2 years?
Yep.
I'll call the Premier because the question arises from the answer given.
Thank you. I met with Cricket Australia a couple of weeks ago where we discussed a range of issues and potential mitigation. We will continue to work with Cricket Tasmania and Cricket Australia, and I'm very confident, in actual fact, that we will find a solution to their stated concerns in the interest of ensuring that this multi-use, all-weather stadium infrastructure proceeds and caters for and delivers for a multitude of events and sport.
Thank you. I'll take the member for Bass.
Thank you, Speaker. My question this morning is for the Premier. Premier, yesterday Labor announced a plan to support our major industrials by delaying your planned increase another 10.6% on transmission costs. It was a plan backed by the Tasmanian Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the Tasmanian Minerals, Manufacturing and Energy Council. The CEO of the TCCI, Michael Bailey, said, and I quote, "Major industrials support hundreds of other smaller businesses as well as the jobs of thousands of Tasmanians. We need to do everything we can, not just to support them now, but to help them grow and expand into the future." Premier, with thousands of jobs on the line, why won't you listen to what Tasmanians' businesses are telling you? Is your budget so bad that you've just given up? Or now, are you willing to abandon our industries that have underpinned our economy for generations?
Call the Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Member, for the question. We are very serious about working with the company, the workers, the unions, and finding and supporting potential solutions to the viability and ongoing sustainability of the company. Of course, my understanding is that Liberty's transmission costs makes up less than 2% of their operating expenses. 1.8% is my understanding. And what you want to do, if I can gather your policy correctly, is expect Tasmanian households to pay for that.
The member for Bass. The member for Bass has asked her question. Members on my right.
You're ready for it. You're ready for it, and you want Tasmanian households to pay for that.
Just making it up again.
And I'll tell you this. What you'll also do is reduce the repairs and maintenance on the transmission network as well.
That's what you'll do when you sell it.
You know, you're either going to reduce
That's what will happen when you sell it.
Leader of the Opposition.
And infrastructure upgrades on the transmission network, like you did with schools. You know,
Member for Bass, you've asked your question.
New schools for 16 years.
Leader and Deputy Leader of the Labor Party. The Premier has the call. He's actually addressing your question.
So you want to downgrade the transmission network like you downgraded schools and hospitals when you were in government. Or you're getting the Tasmanian households to pay for multinationals' transmission costs, which is 1.8%, as I understand, of their expenses. So that's deeply concerning for the Tasmanian consumers, deeply concerning. And, you know, we reach in as a government with our renewable energy dividend to support, Tasmanian households and small businesses, and you want to tax them. You want to tax them. It's like your little plan you announced last night.
Member for Bass.
When you want to, cut services and tax Tasmanians. That's what your little plan is about. You know it full well. The Dean Winter bill. Dean cuts, Tasmanians pay. That's what
Premier will refer to members by their titles.
Did you rehearse that one?
Members on my left. Premier will refer to members by their titles and continue with his answer. I beg your pardon, I just called members. The member for Franklin. Funny though it was, no. Premier, you have 10 seconds.
Thank you.
He's given up.
There being no supplementary, then I will call on... The House will come to order. Member for Franklin, it's not funny when you get warned as you are now being warned. Thank you. Member for Braddon, Mr. Beswick has the call.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. My question is to the Treasurer. Treasurer, in March, you triumphantly announced the establishment of the Efficiency and Productivity Union, Tasmanians' equivalent to Donald Trump's Doge. But nearly 3 months later, your state service shrinking squad remains a mystery. Treasurer, was the EPU's first move to eradicate itself? Or have you quietly decided it was a bad idea?
I'll call the Treasurer.
Thanks very much, Speaker, and thanks to the honourable member for a question with a little wry smile at the end. I just wanted to note that. Before I do answer, I just wanted to likewise Bruce and Denise Morcombe in the chamber and thank you for your advocacy for Daniel and for the wonderful work that you do all around Australia. And thank you for being in Tasmania today. So I want to acknowledge that as an Attorney-General, and I know on behalf of Minister Ellis and the whole government. So thank you very much for the question. Of course, we're all about a strong plan, building an economy that is growing, and the budget on Thursday will be about building a better Tasmania now and for the future, in investing in the things that matter for Tasmanians, like health, where I was with the Minister for Health just 2 days ago, expending record funds in health each and every day of up to $10 million a day. So we're very pleased and proud of that. We have to, as a government, ensure that we get the balance right, and we will. That's the plan. And in terms of the efficiency and productivity unit, you will see more details in the budget on Thursday, but I can be very clear that this is part of our plan to ensure that we maintain a strong and growing economy, that we are efficient, that we are productive. Nobody can disagree with the fact that there is waste in government. It does happen, and the Efficiency and Productivity Unit will review every government program and service to ensure that it's fit for purpose, that it's in the right place and at the right time, and the right shape as well. So it's very important that we get this right. Yes, I made a call in terms of the hiring freeze, in terms of the public service. Well, I thank the public service for what they do, but we need to, on behalf of Tasmanian taxpayers and the community, to get that right. So we have got that strong economy. We've got record low unemployment at the moment, and of course record retail trade, highest wages growth in the nation. We're pleased and proud of that, but we know there's more work to do, and that's why the EPU, the Efficiency and Productivity Unit, has very important work to do, reporting to both myself and the Premier. Pleased and proud of that effort, and there'll be more said on Thursday.
I'll take the member for the JLN, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. My question is to the Premier. Premier, in just 2 years, your government has introduced and is planning to introduce again special legislation to fast-track major projects involving massive amounts of public money. These laws bypass Tasmania's normal planning processes, and in at least one case was brought forward after the original proposal was rejected through the proper channels. You also attempted and failed to push through legislation that would override local councils for planning powers, and now you're trying again. Premier, what type of precedent is your government setting? I mean, it would seem that it isn't about cutting red tape. It's just a simple way of making it easier for this government and developers to get their own way. Thank you.
I'll call the Premier, but remind members to not reflect on votes of the House. The Premier has the call.
I thank the honourable member for his question, and a lot of detail in the question, but I get the point of the question. We are here at the end of the day to make decisions, and decisions we have made when it comes to the Stony Rise development, of course. Parliament made the decision back in 2003, if my memory serves me correctly, around the Meander Dam. Parliament made the decision in 2012 regarding Parliament Square, and Parliament will make the decision with respect to this enabling legislation, and indeed the enabling legislation that Minister Jentsch is putting forward for the Youth Justice facility. And so we are here to make decisions, and we make no apologies for that. We want to ensure that we get things done in Tasmania. And when it comes to the enabling legislation that will be before us in a matter of weeks, Parliament will decide. It is decision time, and I look forward to the debate, and I thank the Honourable Member for his question. I congratulate his federal counterpart, Ms Lambie, for being re-elected.
Honourable Speaker.
Leader of the Greens has the call.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. My question is to the Premier. Premier, your stadium bill is the most unprecedented approval legislation for Tasmania's largest ever infrastructure project. You've handballed it to members of Parliament to respond to the massive issues raised in submissions to the Tasmanian Planning Commission. We will be deciding whether your stadium permit conditions are adequate. Tasmanians want transparency around this huge decision. The money, the impacts on Hobart and everything else. It's entirely reasonable. MPs have the opportunity to directly question government agencies and regulatory bodies about the proposed conditions. We and all Tasmanians deserve to hear this information, and no current process in front of us allows this to occur. Premier, will you commit to working with the opposition and crossbench to establish a parliamentary scrutiny committee process similar to estimates during the week before the stadium legislation is debated?
Call the Premier.
I thank the Honourable Member for your question. Of course, the draft permit and condition document has been released for public consultation in full transparency. This document contains the conditions of the stadium development. The bill will provide authorisation for the Minister to issue additional permits required for infrastructure essential to the operation of the stadium, and the clearest example of this is to permit the Northern Access Road, for example. All subsequent permits must be related to the proposed development, which of course is defined in the bill. As I said before, the Public Accounts Committee have done a very good job in scrutinising this project, and I've got no doubt we'll continue to do so. What I don't want to see, well, firstly, you've made your mind up. You've made your mind up. So we could have 6 months of budget estimates on this issue, and you will still be opposed to this project. All right. But what I
Member for
what I
Clark
won't
and members on
allow-
my right.
what I-
Premier, if you address your answer through
what I
me,
do
we
not
might
want to
stop the
see-
interjections.
What I do not want to see is a mechanism for you to personally attack public servants.
Like you have.
You're the one who's been doing that.
To personally attack
You're the
public
one who's been
servants.
doing that.
That's what you want.
You speak at the
You want a forum.
Leader of the Greens. Leader of the Greens.
You want a forum for personal attacks. Yes, you do. Because you're true to form. You're true to form.
Dr.
And
Woodruff.
We could scrutinise this legislation for the next 3 years in budget estimate style or whatever the words you used, and you will never change your mind. That's right. Everything you want to do is to undermine this project and undermine the opportunity before us. Thank you for the question. We'll, of course, have a very considered response to the question, and no doubt this will be up for parliamentary debate potentially tomorrow. But the legislation and the permits, the conditions, they're all there for everyone to see. No one is hiding anything. That's right. No one is hiding anything. Open, transparent. Been debating this for 3 years. Public Accounts have been doing their job as well. So the draft permit and conditions document that's been released for public consultation, you will no doubt digest that, criticise it, but you'll never support it. That's right. You'll never ever support this project. And we have worked hard to get to the position we've done now. We will never give up. And we will continue with the enabling legislation and look forward to the debate in the Parliament.
Honourable Speaker, supplementary
I'll hear a
question.
supplementary question.
It's pleasing to hear that the Premier is considering our request. This is not about whether individual members oppose or support the stadium. It's about the job of Parliament being able to scrutinise regulatory bodies and agencies as would have happened under the POS process, so that we can understand the permit conditions that have been required. So, Premier, I urge you, I ask you, will you provide us with that opportunity?
The Premier's indicated.
I asked you.
I'm very unclear about what the question is. So the Premier,
My question was, I asked the Premier, will he provide us with that opportunity to scrutinise
the Premier
regulatory
has,
agencies?
in your opening statement, you said that the Premier was going to actively consider it. I think you've got the answer to that.
Well, I did ask him to confirm that he would allow
Premier,
us to scrutinise the
that does
regulatory
arise from the.
agencies.
Thank you. That does arise from the question that you gave. If you would confirm that you are going to consider the scrutiny.
Well, I think, Honourable Member, for the supplementary, I mean, every legislation, every bill that goes through this place gets scrutinised. That's right. That's what we do. It's our job. Can I commend this to you, the Macquarie Point Multi-Purpose Stadium Enabling Legislation Report, May 2025 consultation draft. Please read. It's a very, very comprehensive document which answers a number of the questions that outlined in the TPC panel's report, and takes into account the submissions that were due on May the 8th this year, which is informing the legislation, and indeed
All work done by your
Leader of the
We
Greens.
want to be
The Leader of the
outside.
Greens, you've got the supplementary up. Please stop interjecting on it.
you'll have the opportunity in committee stages of the bill as well. I just want to point out the opportunities for you. Public Accounts Committee, budget estimates, committee stages of the bill. There's plenty of opportunities.
The Premier's time for answering the question has expired. I will take this question and advise that we will then be moving to the pausing of the House. The Shadow Treasurer has the call.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. My question is to the Premier. You've given up even trying to deliver the promises you've made to Tasmanians. You promised more than 100 times the cost of the stadium would be capped at $375 million and not a red cent more. It isn't. You promised Hydro would be safe from privatisation. It isn't. Insurer and Momentum face the axe. You promised last year that there would be a sensible pathway to surplus. There isn't. And you announced your hiring freeze in March. You promised essential jobs would be protected, yet essential jobs in our hospitals, including clinical nurse consultants, assistants in nursing and food services officers, have been axed. Do you accept that all your broken promises on the stadium costs, privatisation, budget deficits and job cuts all come back to your inability to manage the budget responsibly?
Yeah. Well, the Premier.
So, of course, thank you for the question. Of course, I've outlined our approach to the budget many, many times, and did that again today. What yourself, as Shadow Treasurer, and of course the Leader of the Opposition, want to do is cut services and tax Tasmanians. Not only cut services and tax Tasmanians, but make it law. LAW law. Cutting services and taxing Tasmanians, taking away those essential services. There'll be no
Shadow Treasurer and Leader of the Opposition. Shadow Treasurer.
There'll be no robot at the LGH under you lot, supporting women's services, gone under you lot. There'd be no, for heaven's sake, we have another pandemic where we have to reach in and invest to keep Tasmanians in work, alive and well. Heavens above.
Members on my left.
We have to come back to get two-thirds.
Members on my right, if the Premier wanted you to answer the question for him, he'd have given it to you. Premier has the call.
To go back to Parliament for, two-thirds support of Parliament to, put COVID at home in place, for example, if it was up to you lot in terms of your LAW law, cutting services and taxing Tasmanians, which is your response. Our response is a measured pathway.
Members on my left.
We're investing in surpluses.
Members on my left.
Our economy. You've got excited, I know. You're excited about it. But it was a misstep from you yesterday, clearly. Can I say that our budget is all about delivering for Tasmanians, of course, supporting services, growing our economy, supporting jobs, cost of living relief, you know. Health, $10 million a day, $10 million a day.
Shadow
And
Treasurer.
so you'll have to outline
Member
for
for
the
Bass.
Parliament, when you bring your bill on, you know, how it's all going to work and what service, and to have credibility, you're going to have to highlight to the Parliament, what services you're going to cover.
Members,
The
the House will come to order or I'll leave now.
And what taxes you're going to, you know, foist on Tasmanian people.
With that, I will actually, in accordance, the member for Braddon, resume your seat, thank you. In accordance with the resolution of the House on the 10th of April of 2025, I do now leave the chair until the ringing of the bells for the purpose of the joint sitting. Thank you all for that. And with that, we will resume with question time. I'm assuming I'm hearing a supplementary from the member for Clark. Sorry?
New question.
New question? The member for Clark has the call.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. My question is to the Premier. Last week, your candidate for Nelson announced a $300,000 grant for a local sports club. You're in a budget crisis, you're cutting health and education, yet you still can't help yourself pork barrelling. The documents we forced from the Treasurer last week also confirm you've cut $250,000 from early learning and nearly $400,000 from libraries.
Members on my right.
Why are you ripping money from early learning while providing money for Liberal candidates to dish out as part of their doomed election campaigns? Premier, isn't preschool more important than pork barrelling?
I call the Premier.
Well, thank you for the question. Of course, the budget will deliver record investments in education, record investments in health, record investments in other key service areas such as community safety. And we can still support organisations around the state when it comes to
Spending money you don't have.
Member for Clark.
Their needs. When it comes to their needs. Now, I'm assuming referring to the good people of Taroona Bowls Club. So you won't be showing your face there anytime soon. I hasten to add.
The Premier will address his answer through the chair to avoid the interjections, and the Leader of the Opposition won't interject when I'm speaking.
So you're still a member of Clark, aren't you?
Minister Ogilvie.
Right.
Minister Ogilvie.
Just checking. So we'll invest, we'll listen to the community when it comes to their needs, their concerns, their aspirations. I was fantastic to be at Beauty Point recently to open up the new synthetic bowls green there. Latrobe a week later on election day, federal election day, there with the Latrobe community. Fantastic bowls club there. Tremendous people and have done extraordinarily well over the years in terms of state and national representation in actual fact. A new synthetic green there. Supporting Tasmanians and their physical and, of course, their well-being as well. When it comes to the support for more senior Tasmanians, when it comes to the vouchers.
That's right.
Yep, which has been well taken up.
More money you don't have.
Well taken up, I might say. But look, it just might be your opportunity to ensure that you cut the funding to the Taroona Bowls Club, that you cut ticket to play and ticket to wellbeing. I mean, these are choices that governments can make. and these are choices that oppositions
But when you
can
read
make
the budget,
should they
you can't
have
make
Member
the
for
courage.
Clark,
Should
you
they
have
have
had
the
your
courage
question.
to produce an alternative budget? We haven't seen any in the last 11 years. But now you've got your legislation and you want Parliament to support the legislation. I imagine when you
Leader
get
of
to
the
the committee
opposition.
stage that you might well be able to answer questions of what you're going to cut, what service you're going to cut, and what taxes you're going to raise. Now, these are important.
The Premier's time for answering the question has expired. Is this a supplementary? I'll take the supplementary.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Given that Meg Webb, Honourable Meg Webb MLC had a victory party at the club, will the Premier concede that his pork barrelling attempt did not work, and will he finally back Labor's plan to ban pork barrelling?
I'm not sure that arises from the original question, but you do... Sorry, thank you, members on my right. I don't need your commentary. If members on my right keep helping me, I might choose to allow the supplementary. You have it on the record, though, and I will give the call to the member for Clark from Greens.
My question is to the Premier. It's budget week and it seems we have an endless bucket of money. Premier, once upon a time you promised Tasmanians $715 million would be the cost of the stadium. You claimed you would personally make sure the stadium will be delivered on time and on budget. You mocked opponents and the Greens when we said the stadium's starting price would be $1 billion and that it would be all up from there. But today you've confirmed we were right on the money, announcing a revised starting figure of $945 million. But the costs aren't going to stop here. Projects are blowing their budget everywhere. The AFL High Performance Centre has gone up by over 60%. The Cradle Cableway price has tripled. The wharf upgrades at Devonport will be 5 times more than first estimated. Premier, will you finally admit your promise to cap taxpayer funding for the stadium at $375 million and not a red cent more has been completely
Time for asking
and utterly
the question
abandoned?
has expired. I'll call the Premier.
Well, thank the honourable member for your question, which is why it's time to decide. You know, why it's time to decide. And so the Greens have been talking about $1 billion stadium. I think Mr O'Connor the other day was calling it a $2 billion stadium. And it's $945 million. And I've explained even this morning how we will fund the stadium infrastructure. From my memory, the Bridgewater Bridge in 2004 was $150 million. $150 million. And so for all the faffing around, you know, of the Labor and Labor Green government at the time, we decided to build it.
Leader of the Greens.
You know, in 2025, it's a $780 million plus project. So, you know, you've got to make decisions and make decisions for the best interests of Tasmanians. And the longer this goes on, of course, the more it will cost. So now's the time to decide. That's why we're presenting enabling legislation, so we can create this fantastic infrastructure that will be enjoyed and embraced by many generations of Tasmanians to come.
I'll hear the supplementary.
Thank you. The question is around whether you'd admit, the Premier would admit to the promise to cap taxpayer funding for the stadium at $375 million. And I gave examples of where budgets have been blown many times over. So will you admit to your promise to cap taxpayer funding is actually broken?
I will call the Premier to the original question.
I think the honourable member for the question. It's always been very clear in the business case and the investments of $375. Oh.
Sorry, if I can actually, I was struggling to hear the Premier as well, but Premier, if you could, we'll start your time and commence the answer again. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member, for the question.
Nice elocution.
We have always said $375 million of capital investment, all right? And that continues. $240 million investment from the federal government. AFL contribution as well of $15 million.
I thought we wanted to hear the answer.
There will be borrowings for the rest, of which we will pay down that debt when we realise commercial opportunities. It's pretty clear.
We can't complain that we can't hear the Premier and then shout him down. The Premier has the call.
Open, transparent. Here we are, you know, a week, budget week, on a Tuesday morning, releasing before question time all the information, so you can, of course, have an informed opinion. You can ask me questions for the next 3 days and the next 3 days after that, and during budget estimates, all these types of opportunities.
Leader of the Greens,
because we've been
Premier's
open
time
and
for
transparent.
answering the question has expired. Mr Garland, the member for Braddon, has the call.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. My question is for the Premier. Premier, in the Youth Justice Blueprint your government released last year, at page 27, it states, an effective response to youth offending must recognise the factors that differentiate children and young people who offend from adults who offend. The policy also explicitly recognises that children's rights must be upheld. Yet you, Premier, recently suggested that your government was considering adopting Queensland's adult time for adult crime policy. This is a policy which the UN Special Rapporteur on Torture called incompatible with basic children's rights. It is also incompatible with your Youth Justice Blueprint. Premier, before I vote today on a bill to fast-track a youth justice facility, I would like to know if your government is still 100% committed to the Youth Justice Blueprint.
Call the Premier.
Well, I thank the honourable member for the question, notwithstanding it's the order of the day. Yes, but the answer to my question, your question, is yes, we're committed to the Youth Justice Blueprint. Absolutely. For all the reasons that's been expressed by me and Minister Jentzsch as well. What we also need to do is look at other areas where we can reform to ensure that we're able to support the young people, divert, if you like, into diversion programs such as YADS and others, that we can support young citizens of Tasmania to be better citizens through that work as well. And so I said very clearly that we will look at all options. That does not mean we're not committed to the blueprint, the Youth Justice Blueprint, because we clearly are. But we also need to support Tasmanians that feel unsafe in their communities as well. And so it's about striking the right balance. There is need for reform when it comes to the therapeutic model of youth justice, such as outlined in the Youth Justice Blueprint. But there's also need, in my view, to investigate what options that we have, whether that be bail laws or other areas, that we can support our students, our young people, to be better citizens and productive citizens by encourage them on a different pathway in life than the one, the trajectory that they've been on, of course, which very sadly and tragically ends up with people potentially getting hurt or indeed young people going to Ashley, as it is now, or other areas. So we want to ensure that our young people are not in the adult prison population by supporting them becoming better citizens.
I'll hear the supplementary. But first, before you do the supplementary, I'll just remind members that there are interjections on the side around this preempting an order of the day. Whilst technically it does that, the standing orders do allow for matters of significant interest to be canvassed in question time. I will give the call for the supplementary, Mr Garland.
The question was, are you 100% committed to the blueprint? Can you answer that?
I'll call the Premier to the original question. I wrote the answer down. Thank you, Attorney General.
Thank the honourable member for the question. And I was referring to adult prison population when I spoke before. But the answer to your question is yes.
Thank you. The member for Clark.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Business, Industry and Resources. How can Macquarie Point Development Corporation take on debt for the stadium project, as you have announced, given it has no revenue and no ability to service it?
I will call the Minister for Business, Industry and Resources.
Thank you, Speaker, and I thank the honourable member for the question. Undoubtedly, that question is part and parcel of the honourable member's unequivocal support for the building of a stadium and not wanting to put any roadblocks or doubts in the minds of our fellow Tasmanians.
Members on my left will have the answer from the Minister, please.
It is becoming a bit concerning that Labor might be seeking to walk away. I trust they aren't, and they are locked in, like the member for Pembroke, who campaigned heavily in relation to supporting the stadium, and congratulations to him on his re-election. The MPDC will be empowered to seek funding, and we will work through those matters when and as they...
So you're going to give them...
Can I have members on... We're actually getting an answer, so members will be silent.
Or confirms, unfortunately, to the people of Tasmania, the inability of the Labor opposition to understand matters commercial and how these things develop over a period of time. This is a project that is currently about 50% designed. There will be other matters that need to be dealt with along the way, and that is one of them. But at the very beginning, when the business case was made out for the stadium, it was very clear what the capital impact would be. A contribution, and then the balance would be by way of public-private partnerships and or borrowings. That has always been made clear. It was made clear in last year's budget, and it's interesting to note that last year we didn't have an alternate budget, clearly because the member for Clark, Mr Willey, was unable to comprehend some of these things and put it all together in a cohesive document. What you will get on Thursday
members on my left
from the Treasurer is a cohesive...
Members on my left, if you wish to make a point of order, do so under the standing orders. Interjections will cease.
What you'll get on Thursday actually is a cohesive document from the Treasurer which deals with the matters that you refuse to deal with by not delivering an alternate budget. What I say to the honourable member is keep watching this space, keep watching the developments that occur, and together, hopefully, we will be able to celebrate an iconic gateway to our city, a transformational economic opportunity, especially for our young.
Time for answering the question has expired. I'll hear the supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, he went nowhere near answering the question, which was that Macquarie Point Development Corporation has no revenue and no ability to service the debt. He said that they would seek funds, but it won't be approved for those reasons. So can he outline how Macquarie Point Development Corporation will be allowed to take on debt?
That does go to the original question, Minister. And given the supplementary has been approved, no interjections. Thank you.
I thought I did indicate in my answer to keep watching this space as this matter develops, and I encourage him to do so.
Thank you. Question time has actually concluded. Interjections will cease. I do try very hard to make ministers answer questions and draw them to the questions. That hasn't been the practice over years. The fact that people continue to interject makes it very difficult for me to do that. We could go back to a system where I just let them answer and don't withdraw them to the question. And with that, we will move to constituency questions. Constituency questions, member for Clark.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. One of my constituents wants to know how many vapes have been sold in Tasmanian pharmacies since the date that the Public Health Amendment Vaping Bill 2024 became operational. And I should have said my question is to the Minister for Health.
Thank you. It is wise to wait till they finish sitting down, but I will give Mr Shelton, the member for Lyons, the call.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Primary Industries and Water. Constituents in my electorate often raise with me the array of GBEs, utility companies and departments and other businesses that are sometimes required to come onto their property. This can include Irrigation Tasmania or TasNetworks, for example. It pricked my interest when I saw recently the announcement on an upgrade to the charter of working on private land in conjunction with the farmers and GBEs. Can the Minister outline what recent work has been done to update the charter so that I'm able to provide to my constituents the information on what they should expect when interacting with these departments and businesses?
The member for the JLN.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Infrastructure. Minister, in the past week, I had a couple of constituents ask questions about Midway Point and Sorrel Causeways. Back in March 2002, it was announced the upgrading causeways is part of a $350 million South East traffic solution jointly funded by the Australian Tasmanian governments and subject to achieving the necessary environmental and planning approvals. Construction is scheduled to start in 2023 and to be completed in 2025. Here we are 5 months into 2025. Minister, could you please clarify why the Sorrel Causeway isn't being renovated first? And please let us know when construction is expected to begin on the two causeways. Duplication may be finished. Sorry, when will they begin and when will they be finished?
Leader of the Greens.
Honourable Speaker, my question is to the Minister for Business, Industry and Resources from my constituent Susie in Petches Bay. When the Storm Bay leases were trialled, a promise was made by Tassal that they would give up 2 leases, one from the Huon River at Brabazon Point and another in the D'Entrecasteaux Channel. Storm Bay has been operational for years, and yet on Saturday I witnessed an enormous ship stocking the pens at Brabazon Point at Petches Bay. The noise and light pollution so close to my property is distressing. Knowing that industry activity is ramping up is utterly devastating. The damage to the Huon River from fish farming and the recent massive disease salmon outbreak has been obvious and extreme. I'd like to know if Brabazon Point is being stocked now because of fish farm disease outbreaks across so many other parts of the southeast borders, and when will you as Minister instruct Tassal to remove this lease as the Storm Bay Agreement requires them to do?
Member for Clark.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. My question is to the Premier. On 5 March, I asked you a question on behalf of a cafe owner in my electorate who was concerned by your statements that he needed 37 licences to run his business. Nearly 3 months on, you haven't answered the question. What are the 37 licences he needs, and why aren't you answering questions within the timeframe required?
Further questions? Member for Clark, Mr Rufus.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Innovation, Science and Digital Economy. One of my constituents has mentioned to me that they've noticed an electric vehicle charging station outside the Tasmanian Museum and Art Gallery on Dunn Place, and they've asked if we can tell them how many more of these exist and will there be more to come.
Further constituency questions? There being no further constituency questions, we will call an end to that for the day, which takes us to petitions. Does any honourable member have a petition to present?